In a typical year, professional tennis players tour the world collecting prize money, ranking points, and beautiful trophies. They make stops in some of the most visited cities and compete in front of roaring crowds. One of the things that sets tennis apart from some other sports is the constant demand in scheduling and the continuous flow of events in almost every part of the globe. If you're a dedicated fan, keeping up with the tournaments and competition can be as exciting as it is exhausting. If you're just getting your feet settled into the tennis fandom, however, it can be daunting to keep up with all of the pieces of a traditional tennis calendar. Luckily for you, you've clicked on this video in hopes of trying to make better sense of it all. Hi, I'm Myles David, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be walking you through the timeline and schedule of the most important tournaments taking place during the 2025 men's and women's professional tennis tour calendar. Let's get you tuned into tennis. Every single tennis season has a main focus on the four major tournaments, or Grand Slams as they're commonly called, and 2025 is no different. The first being the hot, humid, and happy Slam Down Under in Melbourne, Australia, then the rough and rugged clay courts at the French Open, followed closely by the prestigious and pristine grass courts at the Wimbledon Club, and finally there's the action-packed and star-studded US Open under the lights in New York City. But that is just the broadest view of professional tennis. Although every single professional has dreams of one day holding a Grand Slam trophy, those four tournaments only offer a dent into the week in and week out grind. In fact, both the men's and women's tours are set to have over 50 events each during the 2025 season. The competition is fierce at every single event, but each of them are categorized under a tier system that takes into account the amount of ranking points and prize money on offer. Both the men's tour, the ATP, and the women's tour, the WTA, are composed of three tiers, the highest of which are categorized as 1,000 tournaments, also called Masters tournaments. These tournaments offer 1,000 ranking points to the winner and traditionally are where the top 30 ranked players are featured. Right below this are the ATP and WTA 500 level tournaments. These tournaments offer 500 ranking points to the winner, seeing a trend here? And they usually have stiff competition featuring players ranked inside or around the top 40 in the world. Lastly, there is the 250 tier of tournaments. These serve as the lowest rung of elite level tournaments, offering 250 points to the winner, and typically see competition from the top 50 ranked players in the world or lower. If any of that was confusing for you, just imagine the tiers as the combo menu at your favorite fast food restaurant. You can have your small, medium, and large. You can even bump it up to an extra large if you win one of those Grand Slams that I mentioned earlier. The term swing is thrown around pretty often in tennis, and when we say swing, we aren't referring to the fun invention made famous on playgrounds. We're actually referring to a lead-up or series of events that build up to a crescendo at one of the biggest tournaments on the schedule or a Grand Slam. The 2025 season starts off with the Australian swing, just as it has in years past. At the top of the year, the best players make their way down to Australia to compete in a popular combined event called the United Cup. It helps to start the long season off with camaraderie between players representing the same country and also gets everyone adjusted to the hot climate in Australia. Then there are other tournaments in or around the country, such as Auckland, Adelaide, or Brisbane. All of this serves as a build-up before the first Grand Slam of the year, beginning on January 12th in Melbourne, Australia. The players give their all for 2 weeks down under, and once the champions are crowned, the players start to set their eyes toward North America. Before they arrive, they make stops throughout February and March in Middle Eastern countries like Dubai and Doha for some action on the hard courts. Here is where some of the 500 and 250 events shine, and players earn points that serve them well in the race to the year-ending championships, which we will get to a little later. In addition to the Middle East, the men have several stops in South America where they can get a head start on their clay court season. When the players step on North American soil in March, they know they're in for a treat because palm trees and great weather await them in the Sunshine Double. The first half of the double starts off at the Masters event in Indian Wells, California. The deserts and resorts in Palm Springs serve as a beautiful backdrop for some of the best fan and player experiences on the calendar. If something more tropical is your vibe, not to worry, the tour moves across coast to vibrant and colorful Miami, Florida, just days after Indian Wells is complete. Winning the Indian Wells and Miami Masters tournaments back-to-back is a rare accomplishment in the sport, and only the best of the best have been able to do it. While competing in or winning them both is certainly a career highlight, the tournaments also serve as an endpoint to big hardcore competitions until the summer. After the last ball drops in Miami, all eyes turn onto the European clay court swing. This clay court swing is a jam-packed flow of events where players try to find their footing on the red surface ahead of the second Grand Slam of the season at Roland Garros. April and May offer several stops for players who prefer the grind on the clay courts, with the men getting first dibs at a big title when they make their way over to the Monte Carlo Masters. From there, the women share the spotlight with combined 1,000 events in Madrid, Spain, and Rome, Italy. Of course, there are a spattering of 500 or 250 events to help fill in the opportunities across the board before the best performers try to lay claim to one of the most difficult titles to win, the French Open, which begins on May 26th. After the Parisian lights go down and the croissants have been cleared out, focus shifts to the oldest and most historic tournament in all of tennis, the championships at Wimbledon. Some of the most prolific athletes have seen success at these iconic grass courts, such as Serena Williams and Roger Federer. Managing the shift between the rough clay courts and the slick grass is one of the trickiest transitions in tennis because of the only 3-week turnaround. In those 3 weeks, players try to absorb as much grass court competition as they can, with ATP events in London and Halle and WTA events in Berlin and Eastbourne. Wimbledon action this season kicks off on June 30th, and the fans will be keen to see if they can witness the popularly named Channel Slam of winning both the French Open and Wimbledon, just as Carlos Alcaraz accomplished in 2024. When the glittering gold trophies are all ushered out at Wimbledon, there's the first real sense of pause on the schedule since the top of the year, with most of the best performers opting to find rests before heading back to the hard courts in North America. There are still some players who choose to go back to their comfort zone by playing the mini clay court swing post-Wimbledon, but all in all, the focus shifts to a spectacular end of summer with the US Open looming in New York, stops at the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. for a combined 500 level event, a trip to northern neighbors in Canada, and a drive through the Midwest in Cincinnati, Ohio, both of those sitting at Masters level, all help to highlight the US Open lead-up. Although the players have extended so much energy already, they know that the payoff of being a champion under the lights in New York is well worth the price of effort. Between the boos and the big-name celebrities that pop in to cheer, the atmosphere is like no other. US Open competition begins on August 25th, and everyone will be hoping the stars align for a great run at the final Grand Slam of the season. The final swing on the calendar gets us on a plane to Asia in October. Players either continue their great season or try to make up for prior rough patches with competition across the very populated Asian countries. The biggest events are the 2 WTA 1000 events in Beijing and Wuhan, China, plus the men take center stage at the Masters event in Shanghai. Other cities like Tokyo and Seoul also get in on the action with 500 level stops for the men and women. I mentioned the race to the year-ending championships earlier in the video, but it really comes into focus at this stage of the season. With every win or loss all season long, the professionals are picking up points that could ultimately seal them a ticket to the All-Star End-of-Season Tour Championships, also known simply as just the finals. In November, the men will make one final master stop at the indoor event in Paris-Bercy, all in the hopes of clinching a spot inside the top 8 to compete at the ATP Finals in Turin, Italy. The women still competing in Asia will be vying for their top 8 spot for a trip to the WTA Finals in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. These 2 finals events serve as the capstone to an arduous season, and some players who qualified will finally get the chance to enjoy the short off-season before it tunes up all over again in January. If your passion lies in patriotism though, there are options for the men and women late in the season to represent their countries on a big stage at the Davis Cup and the Billie Jean King Cup. If players opt out of these events or their nation simply doesn't qualify, there is finally time for players to relax and enjoy the brief off-season in December, or for dedicated fans of the sport to kick up their feet, enjoy holiday time, embrace themselves for a good time all over again at the top of the new year. So that's the most condensed overview and explanation of the tennis tour calendar. There are some more niche areas of the sport that I didn't dive deeply into on this video, but if you'd like me to explain those as well, drop a comment down below and let me know what you're thinking. or drop a comment and suggest some more topics you'd like to see me cover. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next time we get tuned into tennis. I'm Myles David, and I'll talk to you on the next video.